I think thumbnails, it's kind of visually representing the story, right? And you want thumbnails to evoke one of three emotions, either fear, curiosity, or desire, because one of those three are, we're human. It's only natural to want to stop on something. If we don't know something and we're curious about it, if something's never been done before, we want to see it, or if we want to get better, we're either leaning into more of the educational things. And so I think sometimes people think that you just need to put up really flashy things, and it's not always the case. It's finding ways to kind of evoke and poke at one of those emotions and kind of visually paint the scene to get them to want to stop, because it's an attention economy. And just like you have a couple seconds for them to stay and watch the video, you have less than that to get them to stop scrolling and pick your video amongst all of the other ones on the homepage. So it's important.
All right, welcome everybody back to the Full Battery Media Podcast. My name is Sean Trace. I am your host, and I've got an awesome guest with me today. Would you like to tell people who you are and a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, my name is Siarra Stout. I am a YouTube strategist and consultant. So about a year ago, I left the organization that I was at running multiple channels and decided to launch off in my own space, and saw a gap in the market and was like, I'm going to go fill that and see how I can serve people best. So just a small snapshot of kind of what I do and the industry that I'm in.
That's awesome. And it's interesting because we are getting more and more and more people that are creating. And they're creating content, they're doing fun things, but there's still this missing piece that, you might create something. There was a great quote that, like in the movies, if you build it, they will come. But that's not necessarily true with content. Like, you can make videos and people might not come. So, it's interesting that you have to think about what you're creating, because if you want people to show up, you got to have something special to them.
Yeah. No, that's so true. It's definitely been interesting being in this space, because I think there's a bit of a misconception about, I'm just going to put stuff online and it's going to blow up because it's all that I'm seeing, where in reality, you're not seeing the backbone of them showing up consistently for 8 to 12 to 16 months of just going when it looks like it's not going anywhere, learning from the mistakes, tweaking things, and then having it finally go quote unquote viral. And it's like, well, they came out of nowhere. No, they didn't. No. They spent a lot of hard time working. So content's it's a business. So you got to treat it like one.
Right. And I think that's the type of thing that people don't realize. It's like, I was, you watch any great athlete, Lionel Messi, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, they didn't come out of nowhere.
Right.
They were putting in reps and putting up shots. They were taking shots on goal for a long time before it became, I was watching this video the other day, or someone put a video on Instagram, and it showed I Show Speed and Mr. Beast and all these other people in some of the early videos. And then they're like, this is them before, this is them now.
Yeah.
And their videos were really bad. I was just like, it made me feel happy, because I was like, yay, my early videos were bad too. We're all the same. But they kept going and they kept showing up. And that's the difference.
Yeah, no, it's I was at the Think Media conference a couple years ago with Sean Cannell, and it was so funny because in his conference, he puts up his first YouTube video, and he's literally just on it. Lighting's horrible, audio's horrible, camera really bad, and he's like, my name's Sean, I don't really care, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, what was I thinking? But he left it up, and he's like, that's the cool part though, is the growth. Your fifth video is never going to be the same as your first. You're going to improve. Same with your 10th and so forth. And so it's, basically the premise to keep going and learning from what's not going well and just get 1% better each time.
I love that. Was it the Kaizen method? 1% better, one little thing better every day. And because all of us would like to be probably further on than we are, but you got to embrace where you're at, and then see where you can go from there. But I wanted to ask you this, because I do feel there's a misconception. You mentioned it earlier, but when someone clicks on a video, in your opinion, what makes them want to stay and watch instead of leaving right away?
Yeah. This is a great question, and I'm glad you asked it because I think it's kind of misunderstood. But when somebody's scrolling, especially on a space like YouTube, specifically when they're choosing to stop, if it's not on the shorts feed, they're seeing a thumbnail and a title, and it's captured their attention enough to be like, oh, I need to watch this. And so they do, and you genuinely have like 3 to 5 seconds to confirm the click of like, this is what I came here for. And if you can deliver quickly, then odds are they're probably going to stay. And so, I think it's important to kind of master the psychology of a click. Short form content's going to be a lot different than long form content. But it's finding a way it's not clickbait, but it's just capturing them in the right way by the way that you say something, or maybe it's, a contrarian hook where you're like, you've been lied to about, brushing your teeth. Well, what do you mean? Like, I'm going to keep watching because I brush my teeth. And what do you mean I've been lied to? So again, it's just kind of figuring out the right way to say things for your content. But that's just super important with mastering that because, again, you just have a couple seconds.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, I I used to teach kids, and I also have a very ADHD wife and a daughter as well. And like, I've got 5 seconds to get something through if I really want to keep their attention. I'm like, all right, we're going to sit down. I'm like, do you have time to talk? And my wife looks at me and she's like, are we really going to do this? I'm like, okay, let me boil it down to the most important components. Us need go to store. All right, we're cool. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the store. Like, yay. But if I sit there and go, we need to talk. We've just been dealing with the groceries it's just like, she's like, doo-doo. And, kids are like super like that. Like, I remember when I was fresh out of college, I moved overseas to teach English. And that's how I kind of came to Asia in the original like iteration. And I remember one kid walked up to me and he looked at me and he's like, Teacher Sean. I was like, yes. And he's like, your class sucks. So I was like, oh man.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And you know what? It forced me to get better. But I realized unless you're hooking them in with a game or an activity, you're not really going to keep them entertained. And at the end of the day, you want to keep people entertained.
Yeah. No, it's so true. It was a pretty neat space when I started in the YouTube world, more on a professional standpoint. I grew up in it, watching it. It's kind of my main form of entertainment. But one of my first jobs after grad school was going to an organization and running all of their podcast shows. Nice. And I think podcasts are one of the best ways to get into the industry because you don't have like a flashy thing going on, like it's conversation. And so you have to become a master at storytelling. Yeah. And it was really interesting taking 4 different shows and turning them from, this one had 20,000, like they were well-known figures, but it was like really, really low for who they were. And then turning it into now 500,000+ and views that used to get 5,000 are now, your viewer ceiling's at 100,000. And it's not just by chance. They were having the same conversations over the past 10 years, but it's just the fact that started mastering the storytelling and how are we going to present this? And a lot of that just comes down to, giving people what they want without like fully satisfying their need and pull it back. And then, they have to wait till later to get it. And so it's all part of hooking them in and then just some retention tactics, but agreed there that you gotta make sure you hook them in.
Right. Well, that's something like, you talk a lot on your LinkedIn about thumbnails and visuals too. Like, why are the pictures so important? Why is this such an important part of the game?
Yeah, no, that's a great question as well. I think thumbnails, it's kind of visually representing the story, right? And you want thumbnails to evoke one of 3 emotions, either fear, curiosity, or desire, because one of those 3 are, we're human. It's only natural to want to stop on something. If we don't know something and we're curious about it, if something's never been done before, we want to see it. Or if we want to get better, we're either leaning into more of the educational things. And so I think sometimes people think that you just need to put up really flashy things, and it's not always the case. It's finding ways to kind of evoke and poke at one of those emotions and kind of visually paint the scene to get them to want to stop, because it's an attention economy. And like just like you have a couple seconds for them to stay and watch the video, you have less than that to get them to stop scrolling and pick your video amongst all of the other ones on the homepage. So,
Right.
yeah, it's important.
I'm gonna date myself a little bit here, but I remember when I was a kid, got to go to Blockbuster, and that was a fun experience to go with my family. And it was interesting because you didn't have all the bios, you didn't have all of the, like you go to Netflix or any of the streaming, and they have the descriptions right there. But what
Mhm.
hooked you for those movies was the visual image on the front of the
Yep.
VHS or the DVD or whatever it was. Like you were looking at, you're like, wow, look at that picture.
Yep.
Giant anaconda eating a person. Great movie
Mhm.
back in the day, you know?
Yeah.
And it was like those visual things were the visual hook. And, before that, books were the same thing. Like these great book artwork.
Yeah.
And I think thumbnails are just this beautiful extension of this long tradition of visual artwork pulling people into a story. And
Mhm.
we have to remember that, like, attention used to be like, walking into Blockbuster, you take, 20 minutes to walk around, look for movies. People are moving way faster now, and you have such a small amount of time.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard about the concept of an elevator pitch?
Yeah.
I love elevator pitches.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, imagine that you have the greatest business idea in the world, and you get into an elevator and you want to pitch that to someone who can invest, and you've got the time to ride the elevator. That's all you've got to get someone's attention.
Mhm. Yeah, it's fascinating because, I spend a lot of my time too watching videos to help with that, right? To help with kind of mastering the art of storytelling, of pitching yourself, regardless of what field you're in. You're somehow in sales because
Yes.
you're trying to help serve somebody in a specific way, and everybody's looking for something, and you have something that somebody doesn't, and so it's finding ways to communicate that well,
Hmm.
and that even comes down to content. But I think that it's cool that you bring up the whole Blockbuster thing, because that's such an original, quote unquote, old school thing that we don't need to overcomplicate. Like, go back to the basics. What were they
Yep.
doing then? Keep doing it now. And then just get better at it.
I love that. Well, and what does make a I've seen so many videos. What makes a great thumbnail? And the one thing that they all agree on is that they all disagree. Like they have different ideas. I'm
Yeah.
so confused, and it seems to be that there's certain components. You have a great title. You got that hook in there with the title. You have awesome visuals, and a place, a person, and a problem was kind of what I've seen. But like
Mhm.
so many ways to do that. In your mind, what makes an okay thumbnail and what makes a great thumbnail?
Mm. Yeah, that's good. And it's tough because all types of content is different.
It's
So,
true.
you could see a podcast that literally has 3 words or 2 words, like "I failed," and it's somebody that then the
Mm.
title is like, "I tried skateboarding off my house," and you're like, "Well, wait, now that paired together, and this is confusing, but I want to click," and it's the most simple thumbnail ever. But I think that's kind of the key. And what I was getting at, though, is, the visual curiosity is coming from your thumbnail, but then your title has
Mhm.
to continue to like explain it and tease it. And if those two aren't, I always say there's 3 things that need to be married. It's the thumbnail, the title, and the hook. And if those 3 aren't
Uh,
cohesive and coming together before you even press record, odds are you're gonna struggle. You're gonna be trying to play catch up at the end. So it's ideating those things before you even start. And odds are those are the videos that I find are most successful.
I love that.
Mhm.
You have to have like this unity of everything. All the pieces have to be in place, and I think that
Oh
some
yeah.
people, one of the things that I find with my clients is that they'll have one piece
Hmm.
and they'll like be like, I got the great video. I'm like, well, what about your thumbnail? Or they'll super like, I've got this thumbnail, and I go watch the video. I was like, wow, we need to work on this.
Yep.
Everything has to be, you have to have a package. I
Yep.
think that was the game started changing for me when I started to realize that. And so for my wife, we do release music. My brain is a bit fried today because in 3 hours I hammered out. I'm really fast with editing. I love it. And I
Yeah.
edited a music video in 3 hours, and it was just like, it was
Wow.
just fun. I've got this style that I do. I just line up my shots, and then I got everything stacked, and then I just do it my way. And I'm super ADD and working really fast. But then I come out and I'm like, wow, that was actually really beautiful. But when we started doing that, I would, for a long time, have a beautiful video, but then we didn't have other components, and like things would fall flat. But finally, we sat there. We're like, we're not going to release anything unless we have the full package.
Yep.
We've got to have everything in place. And when we did that, man, our numbers started going up, and everything started getting better.
Yeah. No, that's why I've been doubling down on it because, last year kind of launched, figured it out. Don't know fully what you're doing when you're starting up a business and trying to just figure out the ins and outs. And it's great. You're learning. And then, over time I was kind of like, okay, like what is my actual like branding? What do I want to communicate? What do I want to help serve people best with? And that was the main thing for me. That's what I'm most passionate about. That's what I've worked the most on. And it's mastering the packaging, and it's strategic. It's not just, well, let's try this and whatever. It's like, no, there's a lot of research that goes into it. There's a lot of studying, and you kind of you got to have the right eye for it, and understanding like what part of the story do you try to communicate in your packaging. And sure, that might not be the entire video. I saw something yesterday, and it was somebody talking about one of Mr. Beast's videos, and it was something about, could you survive 24 hours with snakes? And in his 50-minute video, it was like 10 minutes was the snake part. But they were like, oh, that's probably most compelling. So they brought that into the packaging. And that's kind of the point of what you're doing here. You don't have to sell the entire thing, but kind of trying to find the most compelling things that would get somebody to lean in. And you're still delivering it, so it's not clickbait.
100%. And I mean, it's great storytelling. I mean, it goes back to like Indiana Jones, man, in a room full of snakes, and like, just run with it. But like, when you start helping people out, and you're starting to give people strategy and coach them, like, how do you know what kind of videos people are looking for? Or how do they know before they make them? How do people start figuring out what it is that people are really seeking out?
Yeah, a great question. I think it kind of depends. So if I'm working with the channel that's already established and they have, 20 to 30 videos up, and they're kind of like, we got started, we're still a smaller channel, but, want to grow from here. I think it's easier to pull from data and metrics of like at least having 10 videos on your platform with actually pointing out outliers and finding what's working versus what hasn't. And then you go into the outliers and you're studying, okay, what was it about this? Was there something cohesive with the way that we did package it? Was it the way that we started these videos? Looking at your retention and kind of picking those apart. And then from there, going to the outliers just on the larger platform in general and learning, okay, which videos have done well. But if you're a new channel, it may be a little bit harder because you don't have the full data yet. But that's why you just got to commit to it and go. Because if you have the mentality that, okay, like, I want to at least get 10 videos out so that I can learn to like what to double down on, basically. Yeah. And that's what I always kind of communicate as an encouragement when I'm starting working with people who are more at the beginning phases of it. But all in all, it's pulling from what's already working. Like, there's nothing new under the sun. So it's kind of like, unless you are Mr. Beast and doing things that haven't been done before, like odds are things have been done. And just finding ways to kind of like come at it with a different angle for yourself. But, I don't think that there's a wrong niche. Like, your content will be for somebody. And there's a lot of people in the world. So it's like, it's not going to be for everybody, but it will be for somebody. So figure out kind of who that somebody is and then go be the best at that for them. That's kind of how I approach things.
Love that. Well, I wanted to ask you this too, because it's like, you pointed at something, nothing like everything's been done before, but like, say you get two videos that are about the same topic, like, why does one get way more views than the other? What do you think it might be that can move the needle a little bit for one versus the other?
Yeah. I mean, if you had a video and it went super viral and you're like, okay, I'm going to like do this again, but just slightly different. Sometimes it's just the art of like how much people are actually engaging early on, which then affects like the impression rate that's going out. It's if more people are engaged in the early stages that are even outside of your subscribers, and it's not your normal audience, that'll get pushed a lot heavier at the beginning. And so some of it just has to do with the traffic of the day and kind of the early phases of it. And it doesn't necessarily mean that something's wrong or worse because of that. It's just sometimes it is the timing and when YouTube kind of decides to push it out. Because, hypothetically, you could upload a video at 2 a.m., but it knows that your audience isn't online until 10 a.m. And it's like, okay, we'll kind of wait. And so you might see traction later on. But all that to say, I think some of it is just that initial traction and timing and how that impacts things later on.
There's like, I've speaking to so many creators over the years, and I was like, what's the secret sauce? And they're like, a couple things. First of all, everyone agreed to like, we're not quite sure. It's like they will all make videos and everyone thinks every video is going to go viral. And some of them do, some of them don't. And when I ask, well, what was the common component of the ones that went viral? Like a lot of creators that I talked to said, certainly they had the hook, they designed things well, but what they paid attention to, the ones that were really successful, said, I just kept creating. Like, it wasn't that one video. Like that one video was part of a whole strategy that we put into place, because it was like, we're not waiting for that one video to blow up. Like certainly if one video does get going, that's great. But you can't sit there and base your entire plan off of like, well, what's the one video that's going to get there? It's like I told my wife, she had this philosophy of like she was working with some really expensive producers and that were really quite famous. And I sat there and I looked at the numbers we were crunching. I said, this is not a great ROI. This is not a great return on investment. These guys are expensive and their songs are good, but they're not great. And I said, let's shift it up to making more affordable stuff that just we can do a lot of it. And it's still good quality, great quality. But you know what? That shift in strategy caused us to have huge growth because we were able to just do more.
Yeah, that's the best when even on a platform like TikTok, for example, some people are like, why is it that my video of me literally just sitting there eating a bag of chips and like saying something relatable went more viral than something that I spent, 8 hours editing and had the whole plan? And, again, yeah, kind of like you said, sometimes you just don't know. And sometimes I think it comes down to the fact that people are chronically online now, but they just are looking for real humans and real connection. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're all searching and striving for. Sure, we're entertained and this and that, but people love it when it's real. And sometimes just eating a bag of chips is it. So,
right. There was a couple years ago, maybe 2 years ago now, there was this guy that was skateboarding down the street while drinking Kool-Aid, listening to, I don't know, it was like some song, and it was just so relaxing. But that video just blew up. And I was just like, what? And it was just because it was just this guy that made this video of himself drinking this drink while riding a skateboard down the street to this song. He didn't think it was going to become a thing, but he just wanted to film himself skateboarding. Right. And it became a thing. It became huge. And I was just like, it struck me because, you just don't always know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's true. Sometimes it is. I mean, YouTube specifically, it's a game, and that's what I like. I like playing it, and that's what I tell people early on before I start working with them. I'm like, this is a game, right? Like, we're going to become a team. We're going to win some. We're going to lose some, but like, we're going to go watch the tape and learn from what we did wrong, and we're going to figure it out, and hopefully we can win the next time. So, and sometimes you only need, 10 points to win, and sometimes you need 20 points. So it's like, it depends. And if you have that mentality, I think you'll be a lot more successful because you won't be so discouraged when things aren't going your way as soon as you want them to.
Right. What's What's one thing or that people can really start focusing on when they want to start getting into the game? Not just making videos, but like start playing the game. What are some
Mm,
things that really make a difference?
yeah. I think one thing that's super controllable, anybody can do it. I set a timer every day for 10 minutes. It goes off at 2 o'clock. And I go on YouTube on the homepage and I just scroll. And I take screenshots of videos that stop me. And I pay attention to the title and thumbnail and I put them in this document and I kind of save it for myself. And I'll go back and I'll review it and I'll be like, why did that capture my attention? And then I'm like, okay, what emotion did that evoke? And so I'm starting to
Mm,
just kind of learn things. It's not hard. It's just being mindful. And
yeah,
then I'll go back into those videos and I'll watch the beginning of them and I'll learn from it. And so I think even if you're wanting to get into it, it's spending time being around it, right? Being invested in it and figuring out, oh, I like this person. Why do I like it? Is it the way that they're communicating? Is it the way that they have high energy? Is it the way that the music comes in at the beginning? And again, your content's not going to be for everybody, but I think being around it more and just learning from it and figuring out kind of the heartbeat of what makes good content makes all the difference in the world. And if you're not willing to learn and adapt and adjust, it's probably not going to go well for you. But that's something super controllable that I think everybody should do, is even if it's 5 minutes, but it's every day, just taking a moment to pause and scroll and then just capture what made you stop and figure out why.
I love that. If you don't know what makes you tick and then how can you start making something that's going to make other people stop?
Yeah.
Um, you know, for you and your mindset, um, should people try to emulate other people? If someone has a small channel, like, do you think they should be going and trying to copy someone else, or should they be only focusing on all of their own original ideas?
Mm, that's really good because, again, I don't think there's anything new. Like everything that's viral is being modeled by another viral, right? And
Yeah,
so I don't think it's bad to do it, but I think what gets people stuck is when that's all that they're doing.
yeah,
You're authentically you. And so if you're not still having pieces of who you are in the video, then you're probably not going to win because you're going to be looked as the person who's trying to emulate this person.
right.
And, recently I was watching a creator who makes very similar content to like what Ryan Trahan's doing, for example. And I
Mm,
was watching him and I was just paying attention. And I was like, this guy would probably struggle if he wasn't remaining authentically himself.
mm,
But because he still has his own unique twist to it, his own personality, his like own editing style, it sets him apart still. So they could have literally like almost mirrored the same thumbnails, almost identical titles, and it's the same concept that sure would probably drive more clicks, but it's the way that his storytelling is still his, and that's what like makes it work. And so I would just encourage people that if you're wanting to model something, that's not bad, it's actually a good thing, is to learn and model and just tweak it in a way that will make it more for you. But yeah, if you're not just being you, you'll probably struggle to grow because people want you, they don't want somebody else if they're watching your video. So
right. I remember I got to do an acting class many years ago, and I studied acting. I loved acting. I never became a famous actor, but I loved acting. One of the things is that I was fascinated by is that I studied with this great teacher named Ivana Chubbuck, and she taught a bunch of really great of actors and a bunch of Oscar winners. And I got to watch her coaching, and I'm friends with her still, but she's a brutal teacher, and like she's very harsh, very much critical. And she gave this actor a scene from the movie Boiler Room, which it was what's the guy's name? Uh, can't even remember the guy's name. There's this one actor. Give me 30 seconds.
yeah, you're
Boiler
good.
Boiler Room. I will. No, give me 30 seconds. Movie. I didn't know it was a nightclub too. There we go. Oh, I know his name. Giovanni Ribisi. So there's this actor named Giovanni Ribisi. And Giovanni Ribisi, it was like young Vin Diesel in this movie too, Ben Affleck. It was like all these guys. Now, Giovanni Ribisi has this really like thing, man. He's got this like this high-pitched voice, and the way he acts, he's always excited. And what's crazy is that this actor in her class went up there and he studied the movie. He studied this movie so well. And like when he did the scene, man, I thought I was watching Giovanni Ribisi. And everyone in the room was just like, oh, this is so good. We were all certain, like, this guy is such a great actor. He just channeled Giovanni Ribisi. Ivana's going to just praise him. And scene ended. He was like, you could see his face. He was smug. He's like, I just crushed it. I'm about ready to be praised. And then she started. And Ivana ripped him apart. And I was like, and she just took him down. But the basic idea was this. And she's like, if I wanted to watch Giovanni Ribisi, and I would have cast Giovanni Ribisi. I don't want to watch you. He is who he is, and you're not him.
Right.
And she says, like, take elements from what he does, but make it your own. You have to find a way to make things uniquely you, because otherwise, Mr. Beast is great. And Mr. Beast is who he is. That guy is special and unique, and there is one of him in this world. And, don't be Mr. Beast. Don't try to compete with that. Be you, but find out what makes you special.
Yeah. No, it's so true, and something that I definitely try to encourage people. And I think it's the same thing in life, even with, again, kind of back to the podcast world and your voice. It's like every voice carries a different, frequency that people are, attracted to or not. And like we could listen to the same person and you might love listening to him and I might not. And it doesn't mean that what he's saying is bad. I could listen to somebody else that's saying the same thing, but it's just because I'm resonating with the way that they say it a little bit more, and there's nothing wrong with it. So just as an encouragement, that's what I like to keep mind of.
I love that. I love that, because it's like, you don't have to be for everyone. You just have to be for the people that are seeking out what you're sharing. Let me ask you this. Because one of the things that I have to be careful of, I edited that music video today, and there was one scene where I filmed it too. I ran operated one of the cams for it with the gimbals, because I know when I'm editing it, I know exactly what I want it to look like. So I jumped in, I grabbed the gimbal from my camera guy. I was like, let me do this one, man. And I did it, and I did a good job. But there was one spot where I didn't. And I just didn't get the right transition. I didn't get the right slide with the camera. And I just was like looking at it, and I was just like, 30 minutes. I'm sitting there analyzing that shot. And then suddenly my wife came in and said, it looks great. Let it go. And I just had to let go, because, I want everything to be perfect. But sometimes your videos can't be perfect. Is there anything that matters more than the perfection, or should we just kind of just keep going?
Yeah, no, I think overall it's just keep going. Now, obviously, I think if it's like horrible and annoying quality the entire time, like that would be one thing. But in general, again, it kind of goes back to the whole authentic, something that's real. Like our eye sometimes is more disturbed by perfection than something that has a little hiccup in it. And that's part of our nature, because we're not perfect. And I mean, I'm definitely a perfectionist, and have struggled with that for a long time. So I get it. And I think just the discipline of learning to release things that, sure, they might not be your absolute best, and putting it out anyway, you're going to find more hindrance to your growth if you're not just moving through that to make sure you get it up versus not. And I mean, I have even some of my own videos or my own podcast or something that I'm communicating, and I'm like, man, I don't like how I said that, or this was weird. And it's like, who cares? Like, to put it out there anyway. And again, you learn from it. Next time, just try to get 1% better, whether that's a transition or it's the way that you say something. And it's okay. Nobody's beating you up like you are. So
yeah. I had a video that we just finished. I posted it yesterday for my podcast. and it was of this one guest. And I messaged her. I don't know what happened, but something didn't upload correctly.
Mm.
And I was sitting there going, well, I should probably reshoot this. But then I sat there and I said, I listened to that conversation again. And I was like, this is such a great conversation. The video's super low quality because it was just like what was recorded that was onto the cloud, but not like the full recording.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I looked at my editor. He's like, what do you want to do? And I said, just run with it, post it. Like, it's super grainy. It is horrible looking on the other side. But I was just like, you know what? At the end of the day, like, we still have the audio. The audio is crisp and fresh, and if nothing else, I mean, the reality is most people are not like watching a podcast. Like, people put it on in the background. Like, they just let it play.
Yeah.
And I said that. So I was like, you know what? If they're going to tune in and get something out of it, they're going to get something out of it. Just share it and let's see what happens. And maybe it doesn't go as well as I would like. Maybe it's great, but like, the goal is to hit post. If you can hit post consistently, you're going to be getting somewhere.
Yeah. No, I'm glad you said that too, because I remember, again, being at another video conference, learning about that. And, there's a lot of creators. I mean, even I myself, I'll be filming with my iPhone and lighting's average. And it's like, okay, like, obviously could be better. Studio could be better. But yeah, if your audio's there, that's really the most important thing. Somebody would turn off a video way sooner with bad audio compared to bad video. So just make sure you got that in touch and roll. But it doesn't have to be perfect.
And that's one of the things too. Like, I have a client that I've been working with and love them to pieces, but they are like OCD level perfectionists. And I've been trying to let them know, that thing, like all of those little edit things that you're wanting to change, and like, people are not going to notice. They're going to notice. They're not going to notice. They're going to notice. They're not going to notice. And then they run the video and he's like, hey, no one noticed. And I was like, I told you, man, they're watching for the concept. They're watching for the story. They're not watching to find all of the imperfections. Like, not most people aren't like that. There are some people like that, and they will comment, but the majority of the people are not.
Yeah. No, it happens a lot where, you notice things that others won't. So go for it anyway.
How do you help people stop guessing and actually understand what's working on their channel?
This is cool to me because it goes down to kind of the reality of analytics. Like, data doesn't lie. I love when people are interested in it and they're wanting to learn for themselves, because the best is when you can kind of help teach and then they can go rock it on their own, and then you're just kind of giving them the leeway to learn and run with it. But I think not being blind to things, and again, we think that every video is the best video and this is the greatest idea ever. And then all of a sudden when it's not and you have to learn what you did wrong, that's important and necessary. And so, going back to your question of kind of like, how do you learn what's working and not? It's paying attention to the numbers. Ultimately the biggest thing now on YouTube is not, how many subscribers you're getting or even views. I mean, views play a part in the main metric, which is watch time. But if you're keeping people on your channel and on your videos longer, then you're going to be winning. And so if you're not doubling down on those metrics and learning from them and figuring out ways to keep people watching, and then funneling them to new videos on your channel, then odds are you're probably not going to be winning in the ways that you want to. But the videos that are doing that, figure out why and then make a lot more of them. And I think mastering kind of the loop, because I mean, now one of the best things and that there is to do is to be like, hey, and kind of like tee up your next video that you already know is on your channel already, and then putting it in as the end screen to try to keep them on, because that'll keep them from just being a one-time viewer to a recurring viewer. And then YouTube also rewards that. So I always say that those are the most important things to monitor to see if you're winning or not. Because if somebody, sure, you might have a lot of clicks and views look fine, and somebody's only, the average view duration is like 40 seconds, it's like, well, I had an 8-minute video and people aren't staying past 40 seconds. I'm doing something wrong. So let's figure that out. Or, then I've worked with creators who, they have 20,000 views on a video, and that's pretty good compared to like their subscriber ratio, but their average watch time is people are staying for almost the entire 20-minute video, and you're like, that's a win, that's good. So let's keep doing this. But that's kind of a main win to focus on and to figure out what's actually going well.
I love that. Well, if you were helping someone start a YouTube channel today, what's one thing you'd tell them to focus on, and one thing you'd tell them to not stress about?
I think the not stress is it being perfect, and being committed enough to the process to upload, and to come up with really strong ideas, and then just try to execute on them as best as you can with the knowledge and expertise that you have. And I think if I was helping somebody start from scratch, the main thing would be to figure out who are you trying to talk to, and why do you want to create videos for them? If you can have a really clear understanding of that, it makes it a lot easier to ideate videos and storytelling, and just figuring out ways to talk to them. Because again, when you're staring at a camera, you might forget that there could be 100 eyes on you on the other side, or 100,000 eyes on you. And, focusing on that is a lot more helpful. But I think it's just coming up with steady and solid ideas. And if you can commit to, batching out so many recordings on the front end, and then, having that kind of set up for you to press record and go, then you can upload and maintain that schedule, then you'll be okay. But I think, a lot of people get into the game and then they're like, oh man, this is a lot. I'm like, yeah, it is. So like, make sure you don't have a cadence that's too much too soon. And even if it's once a month that you need to upload, and you can commit to that for a year, awesome. Go make 12 best videos that you've ever made, and we'll go from there. Well,
let me ask you one last question. If you could go back in time and give your younger self some advice in this whole content game, what advice would you give yourself?
Oh gosh, what a question to close this out.
Right? Nothing heavy at the end, man.
Yeah. Oh man. A piece of advice that I would tell, not to be cliche, because I know it's kind of what we were just talking about, but let the perfection go, genuinely, like to its core, let it go. Because I've had 3 channels that I started and then I deleted because I was like, the quality's too bad. Why did I do that? I don't know. I could have just kept building. And so don't worry about what people think of you. There's always going to be trolls in the comments. Trolls live under the bridge, so just let them sit there. Just go for it. I think everybody is, again, watching people and they're like, man, I wish I could do that. Well, you can. Why can't you? So it doesn't have to be the greatest thing. Take your iPhone. If you're passionate about something, just go start creating content about it and over it. And yeah, you're serving somebody somehow. So that's kind of my mindset, and something that I wish I would have bought into a lot sooner than I did.